Welcome to What's New in version 18 AL, the Hacker Edition. Hey, I'm Eric, and precisely 6 months ago, we got version 17, and I did a video where I looked at what's new in AL, and also went behind the scene and poked around in the DLLs to see what's actual news, to see if there's something that Microsoft may not have disclosed yet. And you won't know what, 18 just came out, so it's time to do the exact same thing with version 18. So let's first take a quick look at what they said. So this is the list for the modern development tools, still known as modern, even though there's no not modern. Yeah, that's kind of weird, but so we looked at this in the video when 18 was announced. So I'll just go over this really quick, that we can now add keys to base tables, which is very nice. There's support for, and that has actually been there a while. I don't think they've really announced it officially, but there is some on the SaaS version. There are barcodes, fonts installed on the service tier, so you can use barcodes in reports. And it's kind of weird because you can download the demo fonts to use in your testing, but they are named something different. Then when you need to use them in the rerun, you need to in the RDLC file, you need to remove an S and a demo and stuff like that to give it the right name. Maybe we should do a video on that at some point. Let me know if you want to do a video on printing barcodes in the cloud. Then interface. This is more or less a bug. So you could have an interface that was you have an enum that describes which code you need to grab, and that enum might be extended by something that's not there anymore, so you could end up in having an interface pointing to something unknown. So that's handled. You can mark an interface obsolete now. That's fine. Here's an interesting one. If you remember if you saw the video about lookups, hopefully you did. If not, I suggest that you subscribe, because then you will not miss videos like the lookup video. Anyway, in the lookup video, we looked at that we get just a text back from what the lookup was. The problem with that is actually, I didn't really talk about that in the video, but you could have a scenario where the lookup would return something that's not a unique value. So upon completing the lookup, you will end up in not knowing actually what record it is. So now you'll get the record instead, which is pretty nice. Or you can get the record instead. We get to return complex types, which in this example here say, okay, this is a function that will return a record. And everybody has been saying, well, why could you do that from the start? Why in the year 2021 is this a big thing? And this is basically as it has been explained to me, a leftover for the whole transition from C-side to AL, from the way that the service tier handled records. It wasn't really possible to do this, but it is now, so that's great. And maybe we should do a video on that at some point, because that leads to some very interesting constructions where you can use that together with the dot functionality, so you can add functions together. And then there are some item tracking and reservation that you got some more events, which I don't know why these specific ones are mentioned here, since there's hundreds of new events in the entire app. The next one is interesting though. New AL objects, entitlement, permission set, and permission set extension. So this is actually a big deal. It's a big deal in two ways. One, up till this point, working with permission sets in AL has been a pain and not, in some cases, simply not possible due to the new rules of what you can do in the cloud and not. But if you go in and read the article on this, the interesting part is actually not what you get. The interesting part is way down in the last paragraph here, saying that this is and this is a big deal for partners like me who has apps in AppSource, that this is a building block, are envisioned to become the core building blocks in the story of monetizing the AppSource apps. It is through these new AL objects that AppSource ISVs will be able to define which capability of their apps should be made available to the users when the customers purchase their app licenses. So that is a clear indication that, hey, we are getting monetization in AppSource and lots of everybody. The problem here, I have created my version of it, and there's 1,300 apps in AppSource, and there's 1,300 different but there's 1,000 different ways of doing monetization, which is really bad when you're a customer, because you buy 5 apps and then you need to figure out how to pay for those 5 apps, and it has to be done in 5 different ways. And some apps are measuring on users, and some are measuring on transactions, and some are measuring on flat fees, and it's just a pain. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. Then of course we got report extensions now, so that is really cool. Much more report extensions in upcoming videos, and extension validation upgrade, that is more for this is more for Microsoft's sake, but also for, of course, for we who do make apps, that the upgrade is handled better. So that's fine. I don't really see this as, an improvement of the language or anything. Anyway, in the other video, I had decompiled a part of the compiler, because that's .NET, so you can do that. And this is basically where we left off. We found all the places that were marked new for version 17. And I have done this again, although we can see that actually between then and now, see that we got, and I think we actually mentioned that in the video already, that a property in the app.json was marked for 6.1, and I think there's nothing in there's one in 6.2 where we could see that. Let's see if you guys can, let me see if I can make this bigger so everybody can see it. That's best. I have heard that. So in this case, we have a property on an XML port, I think we're in right now, called allow scheduling. And we got another couple in 8.3. There's a page field, and what is the other one? Let me see. And page part properties on, where are we? That's part of the page stuff. So that came in 6.3. I haven't really looked into that. 6.4, nothing. 6.5, nothing. 6.6, nothing. 6.7 doesn't exist yet. So let's go straight to 7 point. And we can see already here that there's a bunch of stuff. So let's take a look at what's been added in AL for version 7. we have, so part of the let me actually go back to this one for a second. So part of the report extendability thing is that, this is really, no, there's nothing here. Okay, so is that we actually have, so a report is more or less actually two objects already, because you have a report, and inside the report you have a request page. And if you were going to extend a report, you also need to extend the request page. So we now have a request page extension, which we can see that that one as Max 7.0, and there's an on open page, on close page, on after get, on new record, on insert record. I'm not sure that makes much sense in a request page, but I'll give Microsoft the benefit on the doubt on that one. So it is kind of acts just like a normal page extension, and I think that all of this is, no, not all of it. See, here we go, and then we get to something else. So this is the lookup. No, this is actually the new trigger. So there's a new trigger called on after lookup. And perhaps this one is needed to get the record link. I'm actually not sure. I haven't looked into how the record link on lookup works. But on after lookup is a new trigger. And this is on after lookup. So that is in control extension. I'm not sure about that. So on after lookup, that's interesting. Also marked as version 7. So report extension, and report extension has a on pre-report and on post-report triggers. And report, and that's the same thing, yeah. So that's new triggers. Let's see here. Then we have a bunch of, you see the here. So there's new properties on pages, and about title, about text, and multi-language. So the idea here is that, let me actually really quick grab a version 18. Yes, I did mean BC 18 here. Let me grab a version 18. And while that is loading, we can see that I think this is pretty much the same thing. About title, about text, about title, about text. We have a bunch of those. Here is my BC. So if I go into users, so the first thing I actually need to do for this is I need to check that my setting has the teaching tips enabled. It has. So if I go into something like users, you can see, oops, I got about user accounts. Hey, those are here, comma. You manage who have access, comma, and who do what, dot. Assign specific permission to individual users and organization in blah, blah, blah. So I can either do learn more, and that will take me to Docs, Microsoft, or I can do take tour. I'm going to take a tour here. Keep in sync with Microsoft 365. When license or user account changes, and you must sync the changes back to this list. Next. Additional setup for users. Here you can define what blah. So a guide. This is, it's just point to process and navigate right, and I can do end tour. And then it says kind of the same thing, and you can do retake tour, or you can close it. When you close it, you see it tells you that selected page title when you want to revisit the page teaching tips another time. So if we go back and look at this, we have a about title, and my guess is that that's what we get here. And then the tour will take us through all the about texts. So clearly something in here has a, and in this case, this action has an about text. And if I open this one, then the user setup also has an about text. So that is pretty cool. And let's see, I think this is just the same thing on a bunch of different places where it can be added. And then we're going into, what are we looking at here? We're looking at the word extensible. And I think that's on, so this is on a report. So this is the property specifying on a report saying that this report can be extended or not. In general, don't set stuff to be not extendable, because that's a great way of ruining somebody's ability to do what the customer asks about. I find it very annoying when I meet a page that cannot be extended. So I will also get annoyed when I meet a report that cannot be extended. And I think the pattern of 4 is the about string, so we kind of seen that. And yeah, so report extension on both the RDOC and the Word. And I'm seeing this together with you for the first time. So I need to check what it is that I'm looking at right now. And now we're looking at obsolete state on, I guess that's on interface. Yeah, so interface can be obsoleted. That's fine. We know that. Wow, look at this. Parse, comma, separated, identifier equals identifier list property value. That's a mouthful. Anyway, we're looking at a unknown value implementation, whatever that means for enum. So this might be the ability for interfaces to figure out that they're no longer implemented by something that's there. And we have permission sets. We know that. Obsolete state. No, not obsolete state. This is still permission set. Permission sets. We know about that. Permission sets. We know about that. Permission sets. Permission sets. And entitlement. So I didn't mention this, but oops, where are we? So I talk a lot about permission sets. The new objects, entitlement, permission set, and permission set extension. But so we talk about permission set and permission set extension. What is entitlement? Entitlement is a license. So that's the fancy word for somebody having a license. They are entitled to something. That's cloud lingo. So of course we need support for that also. An audit category system option type symbol. I have no idea what that is. I think, where are we? Yeah, I have no idea. If somebody has a clue, let me know in the comments below. So this one is interesting. And let me see because I think there might be another one of these. Maybe let's see if we come across it again. But this one clearly defines the different types of clients. That's the different types of sessions. And some of them we know. Windows, that was the Windows client, and web is web client, and tablet and phone, and we can see the web services, OData, SOAP, and we get the NAS and the management desktop, and background session, child session. But look at the last one here, Teams. So far what we had in Teams were very, very limited. So now the backend recognizes Teams as a specific session type. So I find that very interesting, and this could certainly point towards we get better Teams integration in the future. Perhaps already hidden inside. Maybe there's something I haven't read. Let's go back to this page and search for Teams. Look up Business Central contacts from within Teams. Enable cloud printing and from Teams. Yeah, so there's certainly stuff there. So yeah. So this is probably handled by that new session. So that's interesting. Let's keep going. So we had the enum implementation, and there was a couple of combination of how you get from A to B, from name to number, from position to value, and all that were missing. So I think we're getting those now. That looks great, yeah. And now we're in setstamp. Now we're in something with files, aren't we? File class. So this is so upload into stream. You know, the problem with upload into stream is that you pass a bunch of parameters that no longer are used because they only worked when you were in the Windows client, not in the web client. But so it looks like there's a new version of a new overload on upload into stream that just get rid of all those empty parameters. That's pretty nice. Let's keep going and see what else we get. This very, very long lines. Is read only, and where is read only? That looks like it's. Oh, that's on a report. Yeah, so we can see if the report is marked as read only. So we can test the scope. That's nice also. Yeah, I like that. And what do we have here? That's a security operation result system option type symbol. I have no idea what this one is all about, so let's ignore that one. Ooh, look at this. A new overload to start session where you can specify a timeout. Interesting. So this is the old way of running start session. Those are the 4 parameters. Now there's an overload with 5 parameters. So there's a timeout as the 5th parameter. That's interesting. And here we have the log security audit function. Is that new, or is that just getting updated? I'm actually not sure about that. Log security audit. What happens if we go into a something, create a new ALGO, and this is number 9, and we'll do a 6.0. And we'll do log. We can do our own server here. Come on. Go away. BC. Download symbols. We'll just get, this is a version 17. So we have log security audit. We have one. Let's see what we have. Description. result description, audit category, audit, and then a target type as an array. And the last thing we have in here is a target name. So it looks like a new parameter that's added to that one. Okay, let's keep going. So this one, we're almost at the end. Exclude. Interesting. So get last error text. Exclude customer content. So let's actually try this again here. So get last error text. We have get last error text, and we have exclude customer content. Which is very, very useful if you're in a GDPR situation where you need to make sure that you're not recording customer sensitive information into your logs. Interesting. And here is create tasks. So just like create session, there's now a timeout parameter. And the very last one is a parameter called selected. And this is, I think this is the selected record, since it's a record ref type. And this is on lookup. So that's interesting. I think that's the end of it. So there might be a lot of other things that it's not tagged or is tagged somewhere else. I only looked in this place, and it seems to cover most of what's there. Anyway, I'm looking forward to working with version 18 now that it's released. If there's anything that we have looked at in this brief look down the list that have caught your eye, say, Eric, do a video on this subject. This is interesting. Look into this. We want to know how this works. We want to see a video on this. Let me know in the comments below. But until next time, have a wonderful day.